Hi, I'm Lewis, and I'm going to teach you how to play Warhammer Age of Sigmar, a fast-paced tabletop strategy game in which armies battle to decide the fate of the mortal realms. First, we'll need a few things: 2 armies of Warhammer miniatures, a tape measure, some dice, and a tabletop to battle on. By the time you finish this video, you'll know how to march your army across the battlefield, unleash devastating shooting attacks, and crush your foe in the maelstrom of brutal close combat. First up, let's look at the basic principles behind the game. Units. An army in Warhammer Age of Sigmar is made up of lots of different units, and all models in a unit move and fight together. Make sure every model is within half an inch of another model from the same unit at all times. War Scrolls. Every unit in Warhammer Age of Sigmar has its own war scroll. These handy guides contain the information you'll need to use those models in your games. They tell you everything you need to know, from how fast they move to how powerful their weapons are, and how good they are at controlling key areas of the battlefield. Measurements. In Warhammer Age of Sigmar, we use measurements in all sorts of situations, such as how far our models move across the battlefield and whether their weapons are within range of their target. Dice. Warhammer Age of Sigmar is a game of skill and luck. We use dice rolls to resolve undecided outcomes, such as whether a shot hits its mark, whether we wound enemy fighters, and whether armor protects our units from incoming damage. Abilities. The vast majority of things that units can do are called abilities. These include moving, shooting, and fighting. Each ability tells you when you can use it, how to declare you're using it, and its effects. Each ability is color-coded with an appropriate icon to help remember when you can use it. Battle Pack. To play a game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, you need to know how to win. A battle pack outlines how to muster your armies, create your battlefield, deploy your troops, and most importantly, your victory conditions. A game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar is played in a series of battle rounds, and in each battle round, both players take a turn. At the start of each battle round, each player rolls a dice. Whoever rolls the highest gets to decide to go first or second. This is called the priority roll. A player's turn is divided into 5 phases, each determining what abilities your units can use. The active player uses all of their abilities, and when done, the non-active player can use any abilities their army has that are allowed in their opponent's turn. When you've completed all of the phases, it's your opponent's turn. When you've both taken a turn, the battle round is complete and a new one begins. The hero phase is where potent magical abilities are unleashed, and prayers to the gods of the mortal realms are uttered in the hope of receiving blessings in battle. Any wizards in your army, such as the scheming Grey Seer, can use a spell ability in the hero phase. Enemy wizards can then use the unbind ability to attempt to stop the spell from working. Meanwhile, priests in your army, such as the dreaded Lord Veritant, can conduct rituals to call forth the power of their gods to intervene on the battlefield. Each of your units can use one of 3 abilities in the movement phase: normal move, run, or retreat. Any friendly unit not in combat with an enemy unit can use the normal move ability. Let's start with these Stormcast Eternals Prosecutors. As we can see from their war scroll, their move characteristic is 12 inches. Having wings makes you pretty swift. To use the run ability, we roll a d6 and add the result in inches to the unit's move characteristic. Units that use the run ability can't use the shoot ability in the shooting phase and can't use the charge ability in the charge phase later in the same turn. Alternatively, you can choose for them to use the retreat ability, perfect if you're stuck in a fight that you can't win. But beware, the retreating unit takes d3 damage as their foes stab them in the back as they run away. When we do move our units, there are a few things we need to remember. All models in a unit must finish their move in a single group within half an inch of another model from the same unit, and you can't move within 3 inches of an enemy unit. Models can't move over other models unless the moving model has the fly ability, which is a universal ability found on a unit's war scroll. Whether you're using slings, arrows, or warpstone-infused lightning cannons, the shooting phase is where you slaughter your foes at range. We'll choose this unit of prosecutors to use the shoot ability. The war scroll for the unit tells us how far it can shoot, how many shots it gets, and what you need to roll to hit with the weapon. Next, we'll pick a target. It has to be an enemy unit within range of our weapons, like this unit of Skaven clan rats. We have 3 prosecutors, and they are all going to attack, so we roll 3 dice. Each time we roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, our attack hits. We roll any successful attack dice again. The war scroll tells us what we need to roll to damage the enemy unit. So, we need to roll a 3 or higher to wound the enemy. Every unit has a save, a way of absorbing or avoiding the potential damage. The owner of the clan rats rolls a number of dice equal to the number of successful wounds, and for each roll that equals or beats the save value, a wound is ignored. Some weapons are good at cracking open even the hardiest of armour, and they have a rend value. The clan rats player subtracts this rend value from their save roll. For each failed save roll, the attacker inflicts damage points on the target unit equal to the weapon's damage characteristic. Whenever the number of damage points equals the health characteristic of the unit, a model is removed. Once all the models in a unit have been removed, that unit is destroyed. A unit that did not use the run or retreat ability in the movement phase can use the charge ability in the charge phase to get within the 3-inch combat range of an enemy unit and engage them in bloody close combat. Simply roll 2 dice and add them together. This is the maximum number of inches that each model in your unit can move during its charge. We must finish the charge move within half an inch of an enemy unit, and that unit must be visible when you finish the move. Otherwise the charge fails and the unit remains stationary. When you charge, you have to obey the same rules as in the movement phase. Your unit has to be in coherency at the end of the move, and no models can travel further than the distance you have rolled. Then you can perform any of your other charge phase abilities before your opponent can use any of theirs. The combat phase is where your units fight out vicious melee battles to the death. First, you do any non-fight combat phase abilities, such as buffing friendly attacks or debuffing nearby enemies, and then your opponent does the same. With the niceties out of the way, it's now time to fight. Starting with the active player, you choose an eligible unit to use a fight ability. After you select a unit, there are 2 steps. Number 1, pile in. The first thing the chosen unit does when it uses the fight ability is pile in. You pick one unit that you're in combat with, and each of your models moves up to 3 inches. They must finish this move no further away from the enemy unit. And number 2, make close combat attacks. When a unit fights, any models that are within 3 inches of an enemy unit can make attacks. As with our shooting attacks, the War Scroll tells us what we need to roll to hit and to wound the enemy unit. Once that unit has fought, it will be the opposing player's turn to pick a unit to use the fight ability with. They could attack back or choose any other eligible unit that hasn't yet fought in this combat phase. It's important to note that if one player runs out of eligible units to use the fight ability with, the opposing player can still continue to choose their remaining eligible units, one at a time. Once the combat phase is over, you move on to the end of the turn. The active player determines control of any objectives and updates the score of the game. Then, that player's turn is done, and the opposing player takes their turn. If it's the start of a new battle round, both players roll for priority. Or if the maximum number of battle rounds has been reached, the victory points are tallied and the winner is declared. Congratulations on learning the basics of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Read the core rulebook for more, and visit the Warhammer Age of Sigmar website to learn all about the mortal realms and the myriad forces seeking to control them. I'll see you on the battlefield.